Welcome back to Court TV Live. Thank you for joining us. I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott.
And I'm Michael Ayala. Social media influencer Zachary Latham is charged with second-degree manslaughter in the death of his neighbor, 51-year-old William Durham.
Now, Latham posted videos to social media showing him revving his car engine in front of his home and speeding through the neighborhood. Prosecutors say after Latham was confronted by Catherine Durham, one of the neighbors, he posted it to TikTok and encouraged millions of viewers to comment. And they say things then began to escalate, and the Durham family and Latham got into a physical confrontation, leading to William Durham's death.
Let me bring back in our guest, still with us, trial attorney Kelly Hyman. And Kelly, you know, this is an interesting case because as far as I'm concerned, the video shows in a very aggressive nature by the victim in this case. One would think that this would be a cut and dry self-defense case. But there's two aspects of this case that I think make it difficult for the prosecution. Number one, there is no stand your ground in that state. So technically, if he could go inside, then he has to stay inside. He has to go inside. And he's the one that introduced the deadly weapon into the confrontation. He could have just stayed inside. So that's an area where I think they've got to deal with.
No, I think you bring up a really interesting point. And so it's hard to tell when you're looking at the video whether he went back to get the item that he used and to come with him, or that he already had it in his hand. But absolutely, because their big defense is going to be self-defense. However, you bring up a really good point in the fact that under that state that you have to retreat. So he could have just turned around and walked away. Ultimately, it'll be based on the jury to make a determination on the facts and evidence of whether they feel that he is, innocent or guilty.
Yeah, and Judge Ashley, what we know about that weapon is that his wife comes out first with a camera, and they ask for him. And she says, you're not going to like what's coming. You're not going to like what's coming. He's in the house, so I think he's in there maybe preparing for them to come over. So that's an interesting.
It is interesting, but I think at the end of the day, this jury is really going to have to sort through a lot of facts to figure out exactly what happened and whether or not it can be self-defense in a case like this. You know, don't bring a knife to a gunfight. I feel like the family maybe shouldn't have gone to confront, shouldn't have gone on the property, chose to do that. But once they did that, he then escalated by having a weapon, and we know as a result of this, the father of the neighbor family did die as a result of the injuries. But let me ask you this, Kelly, because we know there are some other incidents involving this young man as a defendant. There are no other convictions. Let me make that clear. No other convictions, but other allegations, other charges that include violence. So just talk to us for a brief moment about trials and whether or not you think any of that will be allowed into evidence, knowing that there are no convictions, but maybe some other allegations involving completely unrelated individuals.
Absolutely, Judge, and you bring up a really good point. And so basically trying to show that you potentially use that information to show that he had a propensity to commit these crimes. But ultimately, obviously, the defendants do not want that type of evidence to come in. The prosecution definitely would make an argument that it shows his intent and more likely to. And the fact that you bring up really interesting, that he could have retreated back in there, closed the door, he could have called 911, but the fact that he potentially escalated the situation by coming out there with weapons. But ultimately, it'll be up to the judge to make a determination of whether that information about prior stuff comes in. As you know, Judge.
Kelly, to what extent do you think this whole TikTok angle is going to affect the way the jury sees this case? Because in essence, an argument that's being made is that he was doing this and provoking these confrontations and wanted them because he wanted to post these videos to TikTok, get likes, and do all the things that kids do when they get likes, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely, Mike. You bring up a really good point of maybe showing that was his potential intent, that's why he did what he did, that he wanted to be a TikToker influencer, and by doing these videos, one of his videos supposedly got like 3 million views on it, and to escalate the situation in order to help grow as being an influencer. And potentially we'll have to see if the judge lets that information in. Obviously, the defendants will definitely try and argue that it's not relevant to case. It has nothing to do with the case.
And I guess one of the things I'm going to wonder in response to that is, did the family feel threatened by the TikTok videos that he was making? Because allegedly the address of where they lived was on there, and then other people were coming by and doing things. So were they threatened? I think that's a part of it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's a very important part of it. And I think you have a definite argument that that's something he could have been doing. And I think who the jury is and how they see, a word that I didn't even know existed, like influencer, what all that plays into society. I think that's going to be an important part of this. All right, Kelly, stand by.